Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. We thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us for a topic that is very hot in Kentucky right now. We're going to be talking about post-secondary advising today. In the work that we do here at CPE to support student access to post-secondary education and success in the early years, advising just continues to be a topic and a concern for those who are kind of in the weeds of this really important work. I hear it from dual credit coordinators, I hear it from transfer specialists, I hear it from high school counselors, and many of us have probably even experienced it as students or parents of post-secondary students ourselves. We all agree that good advising during middle and high school, as well as during the transition to and through college, can really make a difference for student retention and persistence and success. Many of our students and families, especially the ones who maybe have never experienced college before, they simply just don't know the ropes when it comes to general education and degree requirements. It can be a complicated system, so no wonder we have a lot of questions. And we haven't even mentioned things that can be even more important to students, like social adjustments, financial adjustments, and even personal adjustments that they have to navigate as they work toward beginning and earning that post-secondary degree or credential. Mitzi Holland, the director of KAA, and I decided that student advising was a topic that was worthy of a lot of attention. So on February 10th, KAA welcomed a group of experts who support the K-12 side of advising. And today we're going to continue with advising, but kind of shift the focus to advising to and through college. Today, you get to hear about some really exciting work that's happening at Owensboro Community and Technical College. They have built an amazing support system for their students from day one with the Start Center to full service advising and support that goes all the way through their experience in the Pathfinder Den. So without further delay, I'm really pleased to welcome the architects of this professional advising system to our webinar today. We have Dr. Ashley Crow, who is the Vice President of Student Affairs, and Sharmi Davis, who is the Dean of Student Affairs at Owensboro Community and Technical College. So welcome, Dr. Crow and Dean Davis, to the webinar today.
Thank you so much for having us.
I'm wondering if we can just kind of start at the beginning. We would love to hear a little bit about why OCTC decided to make this shift from the previous advising model to the Success Center and the Pathfinder Den. What caused you all to think this would be a good idea?
Well, first and foremost, in terms of creating the Pathfinder Den, I can't take any credit for it. I owe that to my predecessor. The creation of the Den happened before I came to OCTC, but I think that the institution really recognized that our students' needs are broad and varied. So creating the Pathfinder Den gave us an opportunity to bolster the wraparound services that we provided our students, essentially by building a team that included a faculty advisor at that time, and then also a staff member that we called a success coach, who would be there to support sort of essentially all the other things that are so important in a student's academic journey.
I like how you mentioned the broad and diverse needs that the students would have. You know, it's easy to kind of build a model where you decide what their needs will be and then like how will we address that. But thinking about a model that really puts the center of the student at the center and you know, building a model that would address whatever kind of needs might come up is really kind of what we preach here at CPE about being student centered. So you mentioned success coaches. I'm curious a little bit more of the history of how this shift happened. So tell us a little bit about when it happened and kind of who was involved and how you made the shift.
Yeah. So the Pathfinder Den opened at OCTC in the fall of 2019. They had hired success coaches to represent each of our 5 academic departments. Faculty at that time remained students' official advisor of record, and then the coaches were really designed to respond to referrals when advisors would refer their students over to the den for those whatever issues arose. So that was fall of 2019.
Yeah.
By the spring of 2020, we were all navigating a pandemic. We were working remotely. We were serving students the best that we could. Um, by the time that I arrived to OCTC in the summer of 2022, I think that success coaches were serving in what I would call a pseudo advising capacity. So they were not the advisor of record, but they often were providing primary academic advising services. And that might have been because students felt comfortable with their coaches because it was a really relational model and they felt comfortable sharing when things weren't going well. It could also have been because the coaches were around in the summer when our faculty friends were off contract. And so just, I mean, the practical component of the success coaches were here when the faculty might not have been created this scenario where the coaches were serving in an advising capacity, even though they were not initially created for that particular role. So then by the spring of 2023, our president had tasked me with developing and piloting a redesigned advising model. And that one utilized professional academic advisors to deliver advising services.
All right. So it sounds like it started sort of as an organic shift, and then the president said, okay, let's make this more formalized. So I'm curious, Dr. Crow, who all had to be involved in making that shift, and tell us a little bit what was hard or easy about it.
Yeah, so it was definitely a collaborative effort with faculty having always served as academic advisors. Obviously, we needed buy-in and strong partnerships with academic affairs because faculty remain our content experts, our curriculum experts, our lifeline to industry, the folks best positioned to prepare our students to go beyond the associate's level with their academic career. It admittedly was a big change for the college because faculty had always served as academic advisors. I think that there was some apprehension that staff wouldn't know the curriculum as deeply as our faculty colleagues.
Mhm.
The reality also was that advising loads were going to get a lot larger. So with a faculty advising model, the advisor to student ratio was probably somewhere in the ballpark of 30 to 40 students, maybe 50 students to one faculty advisor. With this professional model, we were talking about ratios like 300 to 1 or 350 to 1. So I think initially there were some concerns that that was going to be way too high. How could someone serve 350 students in the kind of holistic wraparound way that we wanted to serve our students? We see at OCTC, academic advising is much more than registering for classes. It is providing holistic student support to our students. For context, I will say that the National Academic Advising Association, what we call NACADA, says that the average advising load nationally is 300 to 1. So even though it was a big shift for OCTC, we actually fall right in line with that national average. I continue to go to advising conferences where you hear about community colleges serving loads of like 1,100 to 1. So the fact that we could make this shift and stick, closer to the low range of 300 or 350 to 1 was promising for us.
Yeah. Yeah. The way that you describe it, it sounds like a really great, opportunity for students and for OCTC, but you described it kind of as a hard sell. So I'm curious, how did you sell it to your colleagues?
Well, I will admit that I sold it a little bit as a president's initiative, but also really wanted to just share that it wasn't about taking anything away from our faculty advisors or our faculty colleagues. As I said, our faculty partners remain discipline experts, curriculum experts. They are important partners in this. Our faculty see our students much more frequently than we do. Obviously, they're seeing their students 2 to 3 or 4 times a week versus a success coach may see their advisees 3 or 4 times in an academic year. So wanted to just rest on that continued partnership and really the opportunity of it being value added. We are adding something in terms of support to our students, helping students have what I would call a navigator on campus, an anchor, maybe The reality of academic advising from my perspective is it's a field of study. It's a profession. You can be a professional academic advisor. Um, and with that, you have to develop a lot of skills and you have to be responsible for a lot of things. And so putting that responsibility of, for example, knowing when's the last day to add a class and drop a class, and how does financial aid play in with academic advising, and let's put that on a staff member who's hired to specialize in that particular profession, and then allow our faculty to shine in their roles as mentor and content expert and curriculum expert. And let's partner together. There can be a real synergy there when we've got academic affairs and student affairs working very collaboratively to serve our students the best that we can.
Yeah. When we had our conversation before the webinar, you used the term professional advising, that this is a professional advising model. And I don't know if everybody who's listening today is familiar with this term or really understands what you mean by that. So do you mind to talk a little bit more about how you would define this term? What does it look like on your campus?
So I'll take that one. So
Okay.
for us, professional advising really looks like full-time advising staff for each program. So for example, we have 8 success coaches, and we'll probably talk about them a little bit more later, but there is one for advanced manufacturing. So that's welding, HVAC, electrical programming. And then we have a success coach for business administration, ag, and auto and diesel. We have 2 for allied health. So one specifically for nursing, and one that's sonography, radiography, all the other allied health programs. And then we have a transfer coordinator that focuses on associate in arts, associate in science. Another success coach that's associate in arts, associate in science, interdisciplinary early childhood education, associate in fine arts, and our capital bluegrass program. And then the other coaches split CIT, computer information technology, criminal justice, healthcare facilities leadership, and they also take on some associate in science. So the faculty members are the content experts, and they partner with the success coach. So if a success coach, the success coaches attend program coordinator meetings to stay in the loop with changes to curriculum, changes with programming. Like Dr. Crow mentioned, in the summer, most of the faculty are gone. So if students have questions, it's very important for the success coach to be able to answer those questions and to know what to enroll the students in for the fall semester. Because students will come in June and July and want to get registered and enrolled in their classes. So it helps that the success coach and the faculty member are in constant communication throughout the year. But that's kind of how we see professional advising, is that there is an advisor for each program, and they can answer any questions the students may have that the faculty member can answer. But the faculty member can answer, a little bit more in terms of jobs and what you can do with yourself after you earn this degree. And the success coach is just there to get them through the degree.
Yeah. So Dean Davis, you talked a whole lot about the content side of how the success coaches support that degree program or whatever program the student happens to be in. But I know that you also look for certain types of skills or dispositions with your success coaches for that other side of student support. Can you talk a little bit about what do you look for in a really great success coach?
Right. So most people would think I'm looking for somebody who has higher education experience. I am not. I mean, it's great if they do, but to go back to the beginning of the Pathfinder Den, I started at OCTC as a success coach. I advise associate in arts, associate in science, and associate in fine arts students with 0 higher education experience. I came from the Kentucky Chamber, so I was doing like professional development things there. So I had no experience at a college, but I wanted to work in a college, and it just so happened to work out that they hired me here. And I look for individuals that are organized, Customer service minded, because we are providing a service to students and our community partners. If you can do that, I think you can do anything. If you can just provide excellent customer service, and problem solving skills. If you can, a problem's thrown your way, if you can follow the steps and figure, here's the solution, and be solution oriented. So don't just have a problem and not try to think of a solution. Very organized, and in some cases, some event planning skills. Not necessarily, it's mainly with the transfer coordinator, but they didn't have to have event plan. If they did, it was a plus. But once again, if you're organized and you can follow direction, and that's good with me. So if they do have higher education experience, great, but that's not what I'm looking for. When we go into the hiring process, that's the first thing I tell the committee. Because most will just be looking, well, I didn't see that they have any higher education. Like, that does not matter. We have people, our success coaches are a mix. Some had zero higher education experience, some had some were K through 12 experience. So it's just it's a mix of experiences, but it all works. And each success coach, I think, is in their right field. I sometimes can gauge, like our advanced manufacturing success coach. He has a very calm demeanor and pretty, goes for anything, easy to talk to. I thought he'd be a perfect fit for that group of students. Our allied health, these are the two latest success coaches that we've hired. She works with radiography students and vet tech and surge tech. And I thought in her interview, she had a very warm and welcoming presence and could deal with the high stress of the students. And she's had to deal with a lot. And I think she does a great job. So it's also just behavioral psychology, even though I don't have a psychology degree. So, but I'd like to think I do.
It sounds very relational, the kind
Yes.
of role that your success coaches are in. I know that from my work with summer bridge programs, that a lot of the students and their feedback about the programs talked about how important it was to have a go-to person on campus that they could check in with, or that they felt like they could ask any question, even if the person didn't have the right, didn't have the answer right away, they could point them in the right direction. And it was just about having a trusted, mentor or trusted contact at the campus. And it sounds like that's what role your success coaches really, really feel, is that go-to person for the students. Let's talk a little bit about the specifics of the types of support that you provide for students. And I know when we were talking earlier, you mentioned you have a START Center, and then you have the Pathfinder Den. So it's kind of a two-step process that students can take advantage of. So let's start with the START Center. What happens there when students come to OCTC?
Yeah. So START is actually an acronym that stands for Student Transcripts, Admission, Registration, and Testing. But really, we think about the START Center as the front door of our institution. We understand that it might take a lot of courage to walk in those doors. And when prospective or new students do that, first and foremost, we want them to feel welcome and at home. We really consider our START Center an accelerated admissions operation. So someone can walk in and within about 90 minutes, they can complete a career assessment, apply for admission, take placement testing if they need to, explore academic programs, and enroll in their first semester of classes. They can also get their financial aid started. So at OCTC, we're really committed to removing those initial barriers for students and leveraging that momentum that comes with taking that first step towards completing a college credential.
Yeah.
So once initial enrollment happens in the START Center, we try really hard to get the students assigned to their academic advisor or success coach in about a week or two. And after that, students are usually served the duration of their time with us through the Pathfinder Den.
Dr. Crow, I just have to say the START Center sounds amazing. When I first went to college for the first time about a million years ago, it was like, okay, go here and then walk about 2 miles and do this other thing over there, and then go way over there and do this other thing. And it just sounds like an amazing opportunity for students to have everything they need on that first day right there in the Start Center, where they, just the stress of finding the right people, finding the right offices is kind of taken off. I love your analogy of the Start Center as the front door. That's nice.
Wonderful. And it is a really great asset for us. And I think for our students, again, something I cannot take credit for. OCTC opened the Start Center over a decade ago, but I'm so grateful to our predecessors for having that foresight of exactly what you said, consolidate and make things easy to navigate for our students.
Yeah, yeah. So then they move on to the Pathfinder Den. Let's hear a little bit more about what happens at the Pathfinder Den. Another great name for the Advising Center.
Hey, yes. So when I started at OCTC, the Pathfinder Den had just opened. Like they were still building down here. So I was here for a month, and then we moved down. It used to be old student records from what I hear. It used to be a lot of old things that people remind. I'm like, that was way, way, way before my time. But what we've done down here is amazing. As I mentioned, all the success coaches, there are 8, and 4 are housed down here, and the rest, as part of the professional advising, are in their respective buildings on campus. So the 2 allied health success coaches are in our academic building, which is home to our nursing department and biology down there. And then they're also in the faculty suite with a lot of the instructors that work with their students. And then our business management and Diesel, he's in the building next to the campus center, which is where the den is located. And so he's close to some of his faculty over there. And then our advanced manufacturing success coach is in one of our newer buildings, the Industry Innovation Center. And he's right there with the welding lab and the HVAC lab. So so students can easily find them because they should be in those buildings at some point. So that's really worked out, having everybody just, spread out. With the den, they use bookings for appointments. We moved to appointments. We do offer walk-ins during the busy times, but we still offer appointments because students, they may need an appointment. They may need to meet at 3:00. And so we still provide that service to students. We send them links. And so it's very easy to just share the link and they can click on it and schedule an appointment. We do keep track, which is very important. We use advising notes in our database in PeopleSoft. And so that allows the success coach to, after they meet with the student, they record how their meeting went. So anything that happened in that meeting, it's good for, say their advisor does change. Say the student decides, I don't want to do elementary education, I want to go over to nursing. So they'll move over to the nursing advisor at some point, and so that they'll have access to all of their notes from the past. Every advisor fills out a lovely green sheet. And so at the intake, it's our intake form. So when the student comes in to check in, they put their name, all their information, and then at the end on the back here, which I know it's blurry, we make sure the advisor circles, well, did you register the student? Did you update their academic plan? And why did the student come in? For academic advising, help with registration for classes, campus tour, check all those off. And then we put them all into a spreadsheet, which I actually just used to get an idea of how many students the success coaches met in the fall and so far in the spring semester. And so the green sheets, they're great, but they can also be annoying because, when you're busy, you have a lot of sheets, but it does help everybody stay organized. I would like to update the technology, but really we just can't find an easier way to get this much data. But we're working on it right now. So that's pretty much how things operate in the den, and we help each other out. We cover. I've gone back to advising from time to time when someone leaves. I usually take on it because I do have that advising experience. So it's just a natural fit that I just pick up, and it helps me stay in the know of things. But that's my bread and butter. That's how I started. So part of me always still loves advising students. But that's pretty much how we operate down here. I know you're going to ask me more, so I don't want to jump.
Yeah. So, Dean Davis, I know that you, when you intake the students, you use this kind of fact gathering green sheet and you learn a lot about them. But I know that you said that you also offer a lot of different services through the Pathfinder Den, some that are individualized and some that are more like, come to us for this fair or this, this meet and greet or whatever. So can you tell a little bit more about the strategies that you use to kind of connect with students and help them, like if they're thinking about transfer, if they're thinking about connecting to the financial aid or whatever it is? How do you make sure that they have the information they need?
So with transfer, we have the transfer coordinator, and part of their duties is to form those relationships with our partners. And our current coordinator is doing a fantastic job of doing that. We allow students to meet with four-year institutions. So what she does each semester, she sends out a Sign Up Genius link, and they can all pick WKU, UK, U of L, whoever, Murray State, when they want to come on campus. And so they will be physically here on campus and meet with students. So students don't have to they don't have to drive anywhere. They don't have to try to figure out who to contact. They click on the link, schedule an appointment, say 11 o'clock on Tuesday, and have a one-on-one advising appointment. And we encourage any of our students that want to transfer that they do that as soon as possible. So we offer that service. And those visits are usually Monday through Thursday. We don't really have a lot of in-person classes on Friday. There's usually some labs for some of the tech programs. So Monday through Thursday is usually when we do those when we offer those one-on-one advising appointments. We also offer a transfer fair. That's usually every October. The last one, I think we had over 20 four-year institutions that attended.
Wow.
So that is shared. Usually all the advisors, success coaches and advisors in other departments, they have that information, so they share with our students. Usually it's in a newsletter, so it's out there so students know about it. And then of course we have the handy dandy green sheets for students. And we also work a lot with students that are going through the first year experience course, FYE 100. Those students, they used to, forgive me, I don't remember if they still do or not, have an assignment where they need to meet with their advisor, and they have to get their academic plan signed by an advisor, and then they accomplish that task. So, which is a great way to introduce students to figure out who your success coach is. And then once you get that, then schedule an appointment, and then just get that, in their minds for future semesters. And then I can talk about now, I know we have some plans that I can show you all, but I'll save that for the transfer discussion. But those are most of the services. And then if students need any additional resources, we can send them to the counseling center. We can connect them with TRIO. If we do have students that may have problems with their courses, so they usually will reach out to their success coach, and we kind of act as the mediator. But if it's an issue with their class, we really try to encourage the student to work with the faculty member. They have to get used to doing those kind of things. Mm-hmm. And there was something else that popped into my head, and then it just popped right on out. Oh, financial aid. Of course, I always tell the success coaches, always direct students to the financial aid department. Don't try to answer questions about money, because you don't want to be you don't want to be the one that told them that they're getting $20,000 and that was completely wrong. So I'm always like, go directly to the source. So we do have a process. This might get too much in the weeds, but we make sure students are in the courses that they need for their plan. Otherwise, financial aid will not pay for it. So it helps us, but also really helps the students, so they are not wasting their money towards classes that they don't need. So about bi-weekly, we have a program applicability plan that all the success coaches review, and that means a class has been flagged. and it's not going to be covered by financial aid. So the success coach will work with the student on either changing their major or changing their class, either getting rid of the class if they don't need it, or making sure you're taking the right social behavioral science course. So that's really where the success coaches help with the financial aid piece. And then if students have questions, I mean, we direct them, walk them up there to the financial aid office, or we call, just to give them that easy, warm handoff.
Yeah. Well, I do think this conversation is kind of heading toward the transfer conversation. I want to talk about that for just a few minutes. I know that advising is almost always tied to questions about transfer in some form or fashion. I know that with you all, a lot of students will complete a 2-year program and then they'll move on to a 4-year institution. And you talked about how you connect them with those 4-year institutions. But I wanted to go back to something that you said, I think it was you in our conversation as we were planning for the webinar. And you said students don't really understand transfer. And so I thought maybe you could talk a little bit more about that. Like, what is it that they misunderstand or that they don't know about? Why is this such an important and immediate topic for students? I mean, you've already said something about you don't want them to take courses that they don't need. And, that's a waste of money and maybe a waste of time, resources. So what is it about transfer that is so important for our students to understand?
So it's important to understand because some students don't understand the money that's out there. So one of the first students I worked with, must have been in 2019, she was taking all of these, she wanted to get all these certificates. It's like 6 of them in business. And finally, I was like, why do you want all these certificates? Like, why not finish this degree and then go get your bachelor's degree? And she just looked at me like I had 3 heads, and I was looking at her like she had 3 heads over her, but was just like, why are we doing this? And I said, you could go to WKU just across the street, WKU Owensboro, and get your bachelor's in business administration, and you have a 3.8 GPA, so there are transfer scholarships. And she just looked at me like, what? Her concern, of course, was money. And I said, yeah, you could be done in a couple of years, depending on how many classes you take each semester. And I think you should be doing that and get your bachelor's rather than getting all these certificates, and I mean, of course, talk to your employer, see, most of them will think to find out, if I get this degree, what does that mean for my position here? Like, will I move up into another position, management role? I try to get them to think about that as well. And so she did. She applied and she went on to WKU. And I was just thinking, wow, so many students don't realize, number one, that they need to get that bachelor's degree. And in some cases, master's and doctorate, depends on what they go into. And then they also don't realize that there's money out there, that finishing their associate degree with us or just even getting gen ed certified and transferring on, they're saving money. And we have a great partnership, with WKU, where, I mean, the amount of money available to students and scholarships is amazing. And so we are always telling that to students because they just think they can't afford it. And also they don't understand that you need to get that bachelor's degree. In some cases, no, but in other cases, yeah, we have students that will do nursing. But if you want to keep moving up at the hospital, it's going to be better to get your BSN. And so it just looks good on a resume. Another example, my husband has worked for UPS for many years. In order to go into a management position, he had to earn his bachelor's degree. So no matter what field you're in, it's very important that you have this knowledge. You can't just assume I can do this and then be good to go. Because what we do find is some students, they come back to us and they're like, I got to get my bachelor's degree. And I just have a student now that's reached out. We have several because WKU has an engineering tech management degree. And it's for so many students that work in a factory. And so we have people that work in the factory. In order to get promoted, they need to have their bachelor's degree. So they come back to us to get gen ed certified, and then they can move forward with earning that degree. So it's just students just don't understand how those all connect. And it's nothing that it's not their fault. It's just we just don't talk about it enough, I don't think. And so we're really trying to educate students on the importance of earning degrees. And we're doing part of our quality enhancement plan on the campus is appreciative education. And one of the goals, one of the initiatives that we've started are discovery events. And those are strictly for faculty to educate students on what they can do with a psychology degree, what they could do with a math degree, what are the steps to becoming a teacher, an elementary education teacher. And all those really lead to you got to transfer and earn your bachelor's degree or your master's degree. So yeah, that's where we're at on transfer. We're getting there, it's chipping away.
Yeah.
Chipping away.
So there are things they don't understand about, like immediate transfer questions, like how am I going to pay for this? But also they don't understand on the other side, what is the value of this, like for me now, and what is the value for my job or opportunities that I might have in the future, different pathways they might go into, different degree programs they might choose. So much for them to learn.
Yeah, and they don't understand the importance too of like you have to take certain classes.
Yeah.
Which we could show it now if you want to. I have 2 slides that I shared with you that shows transfer plans that our great 4-year institutional partners have provided us. And I mean, these are available they're on their websites, but these are just 2 examples. One's WKU, and that's their Bachelor of Science in Elementary Education. We follow this to a T. And it actually lines up perfectly with our academic plans that we create for each student. So it tells you every class that they need to take while they're at OCTC for a seamless transfer to WKU's elementary education program. And the other one over to the right is UK, their Bachelor of Arts in Social Work.
Okay.
And we share these so I train the advisors to fill this out with the student. So what I do is next to English 101, I'll put A. Okay, they completed this class. A class they haven't completed, I'll highlight it. And I will hand it to the students so they can see, because sometimes they question, why am I taking Bio 112, 113? Well, number one, you need to complete a science with a lab as part of to get your associate degree. But also, it's on this handy dandy sheet that we got from the institution where you want to transfer. And the same goes for UK, where it says completed, I'll usually put A, B, C, D, or retake if they need to retain it. It's great for the students to have this. And if we're working on over email with the student, I'll scan it to the student, and they have it. So that just helps them understand. Sometimes you have to have something in front of you.
Yeah.
And I like to color coordinate things. I have like pink highlighter here and blue pen over there, but I get a little carried away with the colors.
Yeah, I think it's really great for students to just be able to see it right there. Here's what I have and here's what I need in order to get where I want to go. And to have that up front, at the beginning of what they're trying to accomplish.
Yep.
Okay, was there another slide you wanted to show, or?
Yeah, we can go to the other slide. I might be jumping ahead a little, but a collaboration between student affairs and academic affairs here on campus are degree maps. And it's part of our quality enhancement plan as well, as to have a degree map for each program. So it's laid out exactly what students should take. So for IECE, as you see here, it's a breakdown of what they need to take their first semester, their second semester. And it really helps for during the summer. So say a student who wants to do IEC is in the Start Center. Well, this helps them know, okay, well, for the fall, this is what you need to take. Now it's not exact, because not everybody is starting, 0 credits coming in the fall. So obviously it will be adjusted based on where they are in their academic journey.
Yeah.
But this just gives you an idea of, oh, well, they took 101, 102, 130, okay, at maybe 3 years ago, and they're coming back. Okay, well, we'll get you into 170. We'll just kind of go down the line. So that's something that we're working on for each program, which is very helpful for everyone. Because for me, I might not know the order of welding classes. Actually, I can guarantee I do not know the order of welding classes. I ask them every time, which is the great thing about our faculty, though, too, because I could just email and say, hey, what class should they take? They've done this, this, and this. This isn't available. What can they take in its place? And they'll email me back or they'll call and tell me. But having these degree maps would help with those questions.
Yeah. Yeah. So Sharmi, one of the things you mentioned here, and I wanted to talk a little bit about this as well, because I know a lot of people who participate in our webinars work with the transition and dual credit and other types of earned credit that people have as when they come to you, whether they're a returning adult student or a student who's coming right out of high school with earned credit. So I'm wondering, how does support for these students fit into what you all offer?
I'll let Dr. Crow answer that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a phrase that I have heard a lot throughout KCTCS when it comes especially to our dual credit students is make every credit count. So we certainly understand that earning college credit while a student is still in high school comes with a whole lot of benefits. They can explore possible academic and career paths.
Right.
They can try out, so to speak, college classes in a way that might feel a little lower stakes, a little less intimidating. They can also, the reality is, experience college classes at a significantly reduced rate for students who take advantage of dual credit and work ready dual credit scholarship opportunities. They can take some classes for free while they're still in college or still in high school. So the director of our START Center, her name is Courtney Duvall. She is overseeing and leading that front door of our institution. She also oversees the enrollment of all of our dual credit students, and that alignment is very intentional. So we have got Courtney, who really nurtures and maintains really strong, long-standing relationships with our secondary partners. And she can work directly with high school students to get enrolled in college classes. And she also has the skills and the knowledge to help students transition right into their college experience. So having someone who can hold that deep knowledge of the high school experience and the new college student experience is really, really valuable. Courtney is also very involved in training our high school partners. So she's regularly meeting with guidance counselors, career and college readiness staff to make sure that our secondary partners are up to date on what's going on at OCTC and can help their students make informed decisions about the kinds of dual credit classes they want to take. OCTC is a NACEP accredited institution, so Courtney works very closely with our NACEP coordinator. We've got a pretty robust concurrent enrollment program, and Courtney is very involved in assisting with that as well. So for our high school students, what we really want is for them to get the most out of their dual credit experience. We would love for our high school students to continue on as adult students and finish their credential at OCTC. We know that's not going to happen 100% of the time. For students who do have their eyes set to OCTC after high school graduation, Courtney works with them very closely to understand academic pathways that will get them to credential completion as soon as possible. And for our population of high school student who they haven't really made their final decisions about what's next after high school, Courtney is very intentional about focusing on general education certification, gen ed certification. So that is essentially students who complete that are able to transfer a block of gen ed credit to any public college or university in the state of Kentucky and satisfy that institution's general education requirements. So again, we're thinking about getting to credential completion, whether that's at OCTC or somewhere else, as efficiently as possible, while recognizing that high school students, like all students, change their mind and need a little bit of wiggle room.
All right. I knew that you all were being very intentional about the high school students and ones who are coming in with other credit. And I think you're talking about what so many people in Kentucky are talking about, which is, let's try to make every credit count and try to get on the front end of that and the conversations with students. And I'm certain that the conversations that students have with Courtney and that having that person on campus makes a difference for them. When that service is personalized and students really understand that their credit is coming from Owensboro. And, it's amazing to me. I hear high school students talk about sometimes they don't even know where their dual credit is coming from, but having that person that connects them to the campus, I'm sure makes a big difference. All right, just a couple of questions. We're running out of time here, but I just have a couple of wrap-up questions that I'd like to hear a little bit about. It is an accountability culture, and Dr. Crow, you talked about it was a hard sell at the beginning, and I'm sure that there are accountability measures in place. Like, is this working? So I'm curious to hear what sort of success metrics do you all have in place, and how are you sort of tracking the Start Center, the Pathfinder Den, to know, is it really meeting the needs of our students?
Sure. So we are certainly keeping an eye on our persistence rate and our retention rate. So persistence is students who come back from semester to semester. Retention is students who come back from year to year. Okay. So of course we have tied those things together. If a student remains enrolled and continues toward credential completion, we think our advising process has something to do with that, along with our 3-year graduation rates. So how efficiently are students getting to graduation? So all of those metrics look nice and steady. They have gone up since the implementation of this redesigned professional advising model, but we're also getting, really useful qualitative data back as well. We survey our students when they are completing graduation applications, and student satisfaction continues to be really high regarding their experience with academic advising. And then anecdotally, our registrar reports that since we made this change to a professional advising model, things like the graduation application process goes smoother. Because again, I think that's because there is a professional who is trained and responsible and does this sort of thing day in and day out, sort of guiding students through that process.
Awesome. Well, the last question that I have for you all, and then I certainly will give you an opportunity to have a last word if you have anything you'd like to say. Well, really, I have 2 questions. One is, this whole advising system sounds really amazing and unique. And I know that OCTC is in the KCTCS system with 16 altogether, 16 total colleges. And I'm just wondering, is this professional advising model that you have, is it an Owensboro thing, or is it, would you see it on other campuses? Just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so professional advising models are pretty common across the US. I think more common at the 4-year institution space than the community college resource or the community college space. I think that's usually tied to resource availability. Within KCTCS, though, I think OCTC is one of the few colleges who are relying predominantly on professional advisors to provide primary academic advising services.
Okay. Well, I know that the folks who join us on our webinars are always eager to get ideas about how they can implement change that benefits their students. So what advice would you all give to anyone who's listening today who would want to get started with something a little more structured and intentional when it comes to student advising and support? What would you recommend?
I think it's important to get the opinions of all the stakeholders, of everyone, faculty and staff. on how they think the advising process can be improved. Getting that now, sometimes, you get a lot of opinions, but it's good. I think, it's valuable information, and having that discussion, just to get ideas that maybe you haven't thought of, if you're going to make a change. Surveying faculty and staff, I think, where they stand with intentional advising would be key. And most importantly, getting opinions from students. That's beneficial. Is there something students think that we're missing, or that they're missing in their experience? And, what would make it better, in terms of advising? So I think for me, yeah, just getting the opinions and having those open conversations, because you don't want people to feel like they're not part of a change. And there could be some good ideas and things that you haven't thought about. But that would be, and I mean, stay the course. It's not always going to be easy. There's going to be pushback, and that happens in any place that you work. So just being aware that the idea you originally had may completely change. It may look totally different in the end. And sometimes, and for the better, but also understanding that you're going to try something, and it's not going to be perfect. And there's going to be changes that you'll have to make along the way as you realize that certain things aren't working. So we need to add this, or we need to, for example, for us, these success coaches need to be in constant communication with the program coordinators, or need to start going to the program coordinator meetings, just so that they are in the loop of everything. Because, sometimes people just don't think about communicating changes to other people, to an advisor. So training everybody to be like, okay, we have this curriculum change. It needs to go to the head of the department, but also the advisor needs to know as well. That's really all I have in terms of advice.
Yeah. All right, Dr. Crow, final words from you.
So my expectation for all of student affairs is that we're going to provide exceptional service to our students. But I want everyone to remember that that's within the context of acknowledging that it's a real honor to walk alongside students while they're with us. So I think by doing that, we can achieve that exceptional service. And we are grateful that we got to share one way that we do that through academic advising here.
Wonderful. Well, I can't thank you enough for your willingness to come and share this professional advising structure at OCTC. I do hope that all of you who are joining us today are taking away some ideas and some aha moments that will help you improve advising for the students that you serve. On the screen, I think we can put up the contact information for Mitzi or me if you have follow-up questions about today's session, or if you want to follow up about other things. Our contact information is there. And then I also want to leave you with the evaluation link. There is a QR code there on the screen. And always remember, we appreciate your feedback, and we use it to improve the webinars that we offer. So we appreciate your feedback on the series. And also, please remember that when you fill out the evaluation, there's a place there for you to also request ELA or FRISC credit if you need that for attending today. As you're taking care of these final pieces of paperwork here, I want to just give a reminder that on Tuesday, March 17th, Mitzi and I will actually host a combined webinar. Usually we have 2 each month, but in March, it will be a combined webinar, and it's all about military service as a post-secondary pathway. As always, we'll begin at 10 a.m. and we'll have a panel of experts in this field, and I'm really excited that we will also have several folks who have served our country. Either they're currently serving or they have in the past. And they will share personal stories about how their military service has been a path for post-secondary or career success. So we're really excited about the webinar in March focused on military service as a post-secondary pathway. We hope that you'll make plans to join us, and don't think that you're looking at your calendars incorrectly. We do only have one webinar in March related to military service. So thanks again to Dr. Crow and Dean Davis. We hope you have a wonderful Tuesday, and we will see you on the 17th. Thank you, everyone.